Welcome to the Geek to Geek podcast, where Beej has no stealth. I'm Void, and I'm here with my co-host Beej.
Very, very quietly.
Yeah, today we're going to talk about Hitman, because I've been playing a ton of Hitman for the past almost month now, and I kind of made you play it.
You did. I walked out of the room, and when I came back, I had a copy of the first level and tutorials gifted to me on Steam.
Well, it was like you were interested enough in it that I knew it was probably safe to get you that first little, like, whatever the episode structure is, and that first one was the tutorials and then Paris. So today we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we dive into like Hitman proper, I kind of wanted to ask, just how do you feel about complex systems in games? And if you haven't played Hitman, this will tie directly into our discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me say I like Hitmans. Like, all of the stuff that's there, I do really like this game. And with this game, it's very complex. And I didn't know how I was going to like it at first. And then when I started playing it, I got used to it. And it had that learning curve that took me maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And I'm cool with that. That's kind of the way I felt about the Arkham games with Batman. Very complicated system, but I realized the logic behind it. And I was cool with playing it at that point. But if a game has a complex system that I don't feel adds anything to the gameplay itself, I pretty much bounce off the game immediately. I did that with Final Fantasy 13, and I think you and I have talked about this, where the game is not complicated, but it was complex that you had to adjust all of your systems. You had to make sure that everything was put together right for all of your characters and their different roles. You had to go into whatever their version of the sphere grid was. You had to read all of the backstory in text instead of having the story told to you. And I was just like, I'm spending more time not having fun with this game than I'm having fun. So I just moved off of it on top of everything else, on the corridor walking and all of that. So for me, it depends on the game and how it's integrated. Because like Hitman, I could have seen myself bouncing off of it, but I knew what to expect out of it being a stealth game.
For me, it does depend on the game too, but I think it's more about, it's not necessarily the gameplay, it's more about the player messaging. It's like how well the game is going to teach you, or even if it's not directly teaching you, how well it's messaging what's going on in the game so that you can learn it and pick up on it and like improve. So there are games where there are people, like Dark Souls, right? The whole Souls series and Bloodborne and stuff. I know there's complex systems there. I know there are people who love them. I cannot get into it for the life of me. And I'm pretty sure I've tried every one of those games. I haven't actually tried Neo yet, which some people say is kind of a Souls-alike game. But all of the other ones I have played in some respect or another. And there's no obvious messaging about like how to get better, what I should be doing different. And it's just like complexity for complexity's sake. Yeah. And if you dig far enough into it, yes, you could get into it and it could be interesting. But if it's not approachable, it totally kills it for me.
I think that's a really good way to put it. Approachable. Yeah. I think if it's approachable, because Dark Souls is the opposite of that, and it's on purpose, but you're absolutely right. It turns me off of just the same way.
Yeah, and Hitman does such a good job in this regard. Like, it messages lots of things to the player really well, and some of it is explicit, some of it is in the tutorial, right? And it tells you, like, straight up with text, here's how this works, here's what you should try to do until you learn it. And then there are other things in the game that it doesn't go out of its way to explain, but it's like flagged enough for you. There's some kind of interaction on the screen or some kind of message or like a little red warning exclamation mark. These little things that, like, even if you don't know the first time you come up to it, it's very obvious that, oh, there's a thing here that I can learn if I pay attention. And very quickly you pick up what these mean, right? Like the little indicators of if somebody's going to spot you and like how far away they are and like how close they are to noticing you're someone that you're not supposed to be. Or I'm thinking about, like, you know, if you're carrying an illegal item and you have it out and then you have that little red exclamation point. All these little things, they're not necessarily explicitly told to the player, but it's obvious that, hey, here's a thing, you should probably figure this out. And it doesn't take you that long. Like you said, it's like 10 or 15 minutes maybe for a system to get your head around it. But it does enough to message the player. And I think that this might be why you like the Arkham games, because they do really, really good player messaging.
Yes. They really do. And that was something that at first I did bounce off of Arkham City because I wasn't in the mood for that kind of game. And I realized that I couldn't remember which buttons to press to do what I wanted it to do. And I ran into that same thing with Hitman because I cannot tell you the number of times that I've just punched somebody in front of a door when I've tried to open it. Those waiters in Paris, every one of them has been punched in the face, I'm pretty certain, like 4 times because I'm trying to open a door beside them and I just clock them.
Whoops.
Because I can't remember which button to press. It also may be because I'm simple.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Hitman proper then. I wanted because I've been playing it for basically a month, and besides Fire Emblem Heroes, this is, I think, the only video game that I've played in the last month. And part of that is because I started a new job and I didn't want to try to learn new games in my spare time. I'm coming around now to, I'm about ready to play new stuff, but I'm not quite there yet. So that's part of it. But honestly, this is the game with the most replayability that I've seen in years. Like,
yeah.
I honestly cannot think of a game that has more replayability unless I go all the way back to my childhood where you got one game for 6 months, and that was your only game.
Yes.
And you had to it had to have replayability, even if it didn't, because you would just make it work. You know what I mean?
That is literally what I was about to say, that even games that you couldn't replay, that even if you hated it, you were replaying it. You were going to play that thing until you 200%ed it, because you had no choice.
Yeah. So high level for Hitman, one of the interesting things is there are only 6 true levels in this. And if you go out of your way and you would count, maybe the 2 tutorials can kind of count as a level, even though not really. Yeah. But even if you do that to be generous, then there are 7 levels. And if you break them up, there are 8. But either way, there's not a whole lot. And in terms of fully realized real levels in this game, there are only 6. And you can pretty much stumble your way through each one time to see the story.
Yeah,
and
you sure can.
Each one might take you an hour, maybe. So we're talking about if you were trying to play this beginning to end, including the tutorials, maybe there's 7 or 8 hours of content here if you play through it one time. But what happened to me was I played the 2 tutorials, and then by the end of that, by the time I stumbled through that second tutorial for my very first time, I saw enough of the systems to be like, oh, wait, I want to explore this more. And then I went back and I 100%ed every single thing I could do in the tutorials before I ever moved on to Paris.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
I don't... This is the problem. Okay, this is my problem with Hitman, and I think this may be a personal, character flaw. I can't play stealth games because I'm not patient enough for this. They make me really, really tense and anxious to play. So, you getting 100% on those tutorials, there is no, and even on Paris, there is absolutely no way that will ever happen to me because I am so not patient enough to be able to solve all of these puzzles.
And see, okay, Hitman, I guess it's a stealth game, but after I got into it, I didn't even see it that way anymore. It's like a systems game. You need to learn the systems and understand how to work the systems. Because
it's a logic game in a lot of ways because of how you have to figure out to get this item to this point to be able to kill this person while you're getting this disguise.
Yeah.
And it's... Okay. It's kind of like a game I used to play on iPhone called Cat Physics when the very first version of iPhone came out. Very first version of the App Store came out. You would just move these little triangles around to get this one ball of yarn to this other cat, from one cat to another. And that's kind of the way I feel about Hitman. It is a complicated version of Cat Physics with murder.
Well, for me... a lot of it is, so another thing about Hitman in general is that the NPCs are almost all on these tight little loops, and it might take a couple minutes for an NPC to go around in a loop, but they will loop, and that's kind of a key component of the game. Until you interact with one of these key NPCs to throw them out of their loop, they'll basically just do the same thing over and over. And there are a few exceptions to that, depending on which level you're in and which situation you're talking about. There are ones that have more of a through line, that if you don't act fast enough, you'll kind of miss opportunities. But for the most part, every key NPC is set up on loops so that you can get to them whenever you get to them and interact with them in interesting ways. So for a level like Paris, by the time I kind of had it memorized, and I wouldn't say I have it memorized, right? But I know enough ways through that level. I know enough approaches to that level, and I know enough placement of the items inside that level that I can look at a challenge in the challenges tab, and just by reading the little description and what I would have to accomplish, I can kind of put like 75 to 80% of it together in my head about how to execute that. And that becomes huge, just like using your own knowledge that you've built up to be able to accomplish the things that it puts out as challenges.
Yeah, because I made the mistake today that I decided that I was going to play before we got on here, and I went and needed to go and do a challenge. And I went and I picked one, and I don't remember the name of it, but I had to kill this one particular like stylist guy with a saber. And I made a mistake of picking this one, not having done any of the prior challenges beforehand, and I can't figure out how to get a saber to him. I set off the fire alarm and drew him over, and then I got murdered because I stabbed him through the back and people saw me. And I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing because I didn't build up to that challenge of moving through and using that specific item in any other way, or learning the strategies of dropping things in different places.
Right. And I want to talk about that a little bit, but I guess before we move on out of the tutorials, what were your initial thoughts when you played? Because you're closer to that initial feeling than I am. Like, what did you think just right when you got into the first couple tutorial levels and started figuring it out?
I thought combat was going to actually play a bigger part. That if you're doing it right, you're never really fighting anyone.
Yes.
That it's kind of, it's like, I don't know. I was expecting that there would be, a little bit of gunplay, maybe some very minor, the fights that you have are basically active time events. And so I figured there might be some Uncharted style, shootouts occasionally because you add cover. And no, if I pull out a gun, I die. That it is almost every single time. If I try to use a gun, it's like, no, you're dead, BJ. So it's not a combat game. And I truly expected there to be far more combat in it other than mostly knocking people out and hiding bodies.
Yeah, and if it was just a third-person shooter combat-y game, I would not have liked it the way that I did.
It would have been so generic at that point.
Yeah, and I have played some of the other Hitman games, and none of the ones I've ever played felt like this, which is why I wrote off this game and I never even looked at it until the end of the year came around and it was on tons of lists from tons of people that I trust. And that's what finally got me to look at it, because past Hitman games, it felt like maybe they kind of wanted to do what they did in this game, but they never actually executed it well. And this game just nails it. Like, it's so good. So, okay, I'm glad we got your thoughts about the tutorials. I do want to get into Paris because I think that's where we have the most to talk about.
Yeah.
But before that, I wanted to talk about how to approach a level, because I told you this, and I actually ended up buying my brother this game too, and I told him this when he started, because I kind of figured this out just by bashing my head against it enough times. This is how you go about learning a level. Basically, do it once and stumble your way through it. And it will feel like you stumbled your way through it, and it will not be elegant, and it will be dumb, and you will want to save scum a lot, and that's fine, but you can get through it. After that, go back through, and there are these things in the level called opportunities. And these are different from other challenges. There is a challenge tab, and there's lots of like subdivisions of challenges. This is kind of its own little thing. And opportunities are ways that will essentially lead you right to the point where you would have some opportunity to take out a target.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you go through and, do one opportunity for one target, most of the levels have two targets. Some of them have more, but most of them have two. So if you do one of the opportunities for one target and then you do a different opportunity for the other target, it will kind of teach you one of the core ways through that level. And that is something you can build on. So what I recommend is go through and play the level a few times until you've done every single opportunity, which there's not that many, right? Challenges and feats and like all of like the assassination challenges and like the level challenges, there's like hundreds of those, like more than 100.
I want to say
level.
there are 104 on Paris, either 104 or 106 on Paris. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think one of the levels might have 150 total.
Good night.
Yeah, but opportunities, there's usually like 6, maybe 8. So it's not that much of your time to do it, but it is the most worthwhile thing you can do with your time, because then it will teach you a bunch of the core mechanics that are unique to that level and a bunch of the core ways to get through the level to the end successfully. And that is what you build on. After you have that core of understanding the opportunities and how they work, that's when you should go into that challenges menu and the feats menu and the assassination challenges menu and all the other things, and just start picking things that look fun, because now you'll have just enough knowledge of the level to be able to build on it in lots and lots of interesting ways. And that's kind of what you and I were talking about. Like, you have enough knowledge to do part of it in your head, but then actually start to execute it.
And that's where the hard part comes in for me, is I'm not a delicate guy. I really do like Hamilton on that one. I got a lot of brains and no polish. That's really how I approached Hitman, is I can think my way through it, and then the execution is like, no, I'm going to stab you. And then I mess it up, and I think through it and see most of the pieces. And this is why I'm terrible at chess as well. And the very end game, when I get there, I realize that this was a terrible mistake, and something bad happens to me. But the opportunities have really honestly helped me, because the first time I went through Paris, it was ugly. Like, and I made a point not to do the opportunities that time. I wanted to figure out how to do this entirely on my own. And I was doing everything that I could and swapping disguises, moving into different areas of the mansion based on the disguise, figuring out who could go upstairs, who couldn't, all of this. And I muddled my way through it, and it really was ugly. And like, when I killed both of them, I was being hunted and basically just had to get a disguise that was compromised and then just slowly make my way out of a disguise that was compromised, that where if I had been seen by an NPC, I would have been arrested or killed. And so I had to leave like that. Like, it was it was like watching the end of a Tarantino movie. It was just ugly and gross, but it got the job done.
That's really funny. But yeah, that's the way it goes right at the beginning. You stumble your way through that first time, and then you build on what you learned from it. And that first time always takes longer than like any of the other times, unless you're doing a crazy challenge. There are some crazy challenges in there that are just like insane. But outside of those, like, that first time through is where you're going to struggle the most, and it's going to take you the longest. And every time after that will go more smoothly, and you'll learn more. And it's just really interesting. Like, this is, I see it, and I know I said this already, but I see it as a systems game. And like, I love interesting systems. That is probably the primary reason I play video games. That and story. Right? Depends on the game, which one I'm going for. Hitman has nothing to offer in terms of story. Like,
that's what I was about to ask, because they're trying, and they've set up a pretty interesting world, because it does feel very alive. That there are people talking, there are lots of conversations going on, and they're all within the same kind of narrative, but I obviously haven't played enough of the full game to know whether or not it actually pays off into anything, or if it gets you invested beyond Paris.
No, I mean, the story is just an excuse to get you to all the locations, but the story itself, like, even by the end of it, I didn't care. I mean, I watched every cutscene, so I knew what was going on. I didn't care at all, not even remotely.
Yeah, that's kind of what I expected out of it, because it's cliched. I mean, it is very melodramatic, espionage, spy, like Jason Bourne movie stuff, but I saw how it could be interesting, or could just be like, yep, this is here.
Yeah, if you get good story, like really good story, and really, really good systems in a game, that's like, those are my favorite games. Like, those will hook me and be my favorite games for life, that kind of thing, you know? Like, yeah. I would say that's one of the reasons that Persona 4 got me so much last year, is that the systems in place for the social links, coupled with the story that game tells, was just so compelling for me. You know, it wasn't even the battle system or the dungeon system or like any of that. It was the social link system was just so fascinating for me. And I just wanted to like work my mind on it. And yeah. So I feel drawn to this game the same way because of the systems, not for the story at all. But
Yeah.
yeah, so the other thing that we should mention, and we're not going to get into it, but just in case you haven't played this game and anything we've said has interested you, some more stuff you should know about just the content. So we're talking about the core missions here, but outside of that, you can do escalation missions, which is, it would take place, like, for example, also in Paris, but it would start, and a typical core mission is kill these 2 targets. You can kill them with any weapon. You can kill them wearing any disguise, basically. An escalation mission might start and say, you have to kill, it's usually a different person, not one of those core 2. You have to kill a new person in this level, and you have to do it with, like your example, you have to do it with a saber, right? So maybe that's escalation mission 1, and then the second level of it is kill the person with a saber while wearing a certain disguise, and then the next level is even harder, and they usually have 5 levels. So it builds on itself, and it gets tougher and tougher as you go on. And those are kind of fun to do.
Yeah, I can see how it's super fun. Like the idea behind it and figuring it out and keeping on escalating it up, see what they did there, is really, really interesting to me. I just think I'm going to be so bad at this, I'll never be able to get all 5 of them done in any of them.
I haven't even had time to try them in the main game. I did them in the tutorials, and I had a lot of fun. And like I said, I 100%ed that tutorial stuff. But I haven't done any escalations after that, which is another reason I don't want to talk about it, because I just don't have enough to say about it. Also, besides,
cool idea, at least.
Yeah, it is a really cool idea, and I really liked it in the tutorial, which makes me think that it's just as fun in the rest of the levels. And then the other thing they have to offer is they've been rolling out alternate scenarios. So it would be like Paris, but it's holiday time, and it's some kind of special holiday mission that completely changes the level. That's in the game too for free if you own it. And I haven't even tried that because I've been so busy with the core game. I haven't tried
it because I keep seeing it. I think it's called Holiday Heist or something like that for Paris. And I see it and I want to play it, but then I'm like, but I want to do this normal one. So I just went and have done the normal stuff, and I really need to load up the holiday content just to see.
So there's a couple of those, and then there's a whole nother through line to the game called Sarajevo 6 that they're slowly patching in. So this is really games as a service, which I think that could be a whole topic in itself that we could talk about later. So I don't want to get hung up too much on it. But this game just has so much content to offer, and it's very appealing to me for that reason. But
it's really, what's interesting to me about doing this, and like you said, with games as a service, is that this feels like so much more than just DLC. That you're not getting just a couple of character packs, you're not getting some skins and a couple extra zones to do. That with the way that they're doing it, they are constantly changing the way that the content is being put in and how it's being used. So every time you're getting something completely different. Yes,
definitely. It's really cool like that. Okay, so Paris, this is what we really wanted to talk about. And if you're worried about spoilers in this game, you shouldn't be. It's a game about systems. It's not a game about spoilers. But it's another reason that we are going to talk about Paris. There are 5 other levels, and we are not going to get into details about any of those. So we're really not spoiling much for you.
And you can get this on Steam and probably the PlayStation Network, I'm assuming, for $15, right? That the 2 tutorials and Paris, I think, cost about $15. So you're not going to be out a lot of money to play what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, and even though Hitman just wrapped up not that long ago with the 6th level, because the first level has been out for so long, the game has kind of existed for a while. So Steam sales usually have a big discount on this already, which is cool. I think there was a flash sale last weekend, and it was half off or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is definitely worth it if you can get that. If it's under $10, just buy it straight up.
Yeah. Okay, so Paris. There's a lot to dig into, so I think we're just going to talk about whatever. And like I said, this is one where I beat almost everything in Paris on top of 100%ing the tutorials. And Paris, the only things I haven't done are the escalation missions, and I haven't done 2 or 3 of the super, super hard challenges, including ones that are did you look at the vampire challenges at all?
No, I didn't see a vampire challenge. I was looking through those this afternoon, and I missed the vampire challenge.
Okay, there's a vampire magician costume thing, and It's hidden up in the attic, like way off to the side, away from where most of the guys are that are like security guards in the attic. And if you go get it, there's a specific set of challenges that's like magician, vampire, vampire, magician, or something. It is the hardest disguise to use because basically everyone is suspicious of you the entire time. So,
well, yeah,
I did 2 of those, maybe 3 of them. And then the other ones are just like the ones where you look at it and you're like, that's almost impossible. You know, it's not impossible, but it's like, do I want to keep putting time into this, or should I just go and do a different level?
I'm going to have to just go find it and see, because that sounds awesome and ridiculous.
Yeah, so those ones I didn't finish. And then there's a couple where it's like, beat the entire level starting at the default location entirely in your suit without changing disguises, with never being detected, never have a body found, exit the level unnoticed. It's like all of the hard things to do.
And I was like, I will never make that happen ever.
Yeah, so there are like ones that lead up to that. So ones like, you know, be silent the entire time, don't ever get found. I beat a bunch of those, or like do the whole thing in your suit. But the one that actually combines all of them together, I haven't done that yet either, because it's super hard.
I can't imagine doing it all in your suit. That's how bad I am at this. I'm thinking, you say that though, and it goes exactly to what you were talking about, how the systems are set up. Even though I saw that challenge earlier today, I didn't really think about it. And then you say it, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's how I'd get up there if I was with my suit. Like, just saying is like, oh yeah, now I know how to get up there and do that. I have an idea.
See, and that's the thing, is like you start working on an idea in your head and you get like part of it. So it's like, maybe you know kind of half of how to do this one and you keep it in mind for later. Yeah, so it's so cool to be able to like put parts of it together in your head and slowly build on it over time until you feel like, yeah, I'm probably within striking distance of that one. I should just give it a shot.
Yeah, I could totally see that, especially after, you know, like you just said, it's like, oh yeah, that's how I can get on the second and third floor like that. Okay.
Yeah, so Paris, the thing is with all of these levels, like I said, there's only 6 real levels, but each one is like a fully fleshed out world, but it's very small. So it gets super granular in the details, which is what makes the systems interesting. Mm-hmm. But it's not like a whole, well, some of them are more than a city block. But Paris, for instance, it's basically a palace. And it's like a rented out palace where a fashion show is happening downstairs. And one of your targets is the guy who like owns the fashion line, who's rolling out the new clothesline or whatever for the fashion show. Really, the fashion show is a cover-up for a secret auction that's happening upstairs, and they're selling whatever, state secrets or something. And your secondary target is the woman who's running the auction upstairs. So you end up with, there's a red carpet and you walk in with a ticket and you're in your suit and you're just kind of told,
tuxedo.
Yeah, you're told, okay, go for it, figure it out.
And that's it. Like, really, you walk in and there are events that trigger as you move through, and it's like, oh yeah, this is the target that you're supposed to kill, and he is surrounded by bodyguards coming down the stairs, and there is just a mob of people, like you're watching, you know, Batman Begins and Bruce Wayne is coming in. I mean, just a throng of people all around at every side. And it's just like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to do this.
Yeah, and it's just like, you know, you got to figure it out, which is cool. So it becomes somewhat about levels of access. Like, there are different areas that you can't walk into, right? Like where they're setting up for the fashion show, since you're a guest, when you look like a guest when you're in your suit, you can't go back there. But if you steal the uniform of like a stylist who's working the fashion show, then you can go back there without the guards like noticing and getting on your case. Really. So yeah, there's like a main level, and it's pretty easy to get access to different parts of the main level. There's lots of ways to do it. There's a basement level that's like a kitchen. So if you steal like a chef uniform or like a kitchen staff or palace staff, you can get down there. And then as you go up, it gets kind of like harder to get to the different levels of access. And this is an interesting one for levels of access because it's literally levels of the building for access. Whereas other ones, like other Hitman levels that are outside of Paris, are built in different ways, where it's not so much like vertical levels of access. It's different ways that they execute this. But having the right disguise to get to the right place becomes a key part of the game, which is super interesting.
And like they interact with you so well. Like the NPCs, as you're going through, they make snide comments at you or they compliment you. And then even if you're in a place you're supposed to be, my problem is running into people and then they realize, oh, hey, you're not my buddy. He wouldn't have done that. And then they kill you.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. But I guess one of the things I would say in the game's defense is that they are really good about, like, if you are in a uniform that can't get into a place and you take a couple steps that direction, there are usually guards like posted there that are like, hey, buddy, you can't go that way. So it's not like if you take one step the wrong direction, they're going to instantly kill you. Like, it tries to be realistic.
Yeah, if you're walking into a restricted area, they're not going to shoot you for stepping your toe over the line. They're going to go, hey, like you said, hey, buddy, go away. And then you can just turn around and be like, yeah, I thought so. And then you just walk away.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to do because it actually, I don't know, it just feels more realistic. Like, you're not going to get instantly killed because you put 1 foot out of line, which, you know, that's how the real world works. Like, if there's a bouncer or a guard somewhere and you start trying to go somewhere you're not supposed to be, they'll just be like, hey, no, don't do that.
They're not going to go all video game on you and just shoot you for, you know, looking at them.
Right. So in this level, getting back to like the NPC loops that we talked about, right? So the guy downstairs, his name is Victor. He has a loop kind of around the main level of the palace. And some of it is like he goes and he checks out, you know, the people getting ready for the fashion show. And he goes and just wanders around, goes outside and he goes, it doesn't really matter exactly where he goes, but he kind of has a tight loop downstairs that you can mess with. And then the lady who's in charge of the auction, she has a pretty tight loop upstairs. And those are kind of the 2 main NPC loops you can mess with. But again, there's lots of other kind of key NPCs that you can mess with or throw off in different ways, and that will impact those 2 main targets in fascinating ways.
I like messing with, it's much easier, and hold on, let me start this over. I think it's much easier to mess with hers upstairs than it is his downstairs because there's so many more people downstairs. While it's hard to get, I can kill her so much easier, even though it's harder to get upstairs than I can him, because there are just so many people watching everything I do when I'm on the bottom.
I could see that. I don't know. See, one of the things I found was that as you do more of the challenges and you replay the level, you get experience points towards a mastery level, and it doesn't make you, it's not like an RPG where it makes your character more powerful or have more health, right? All it does is give you more options when you're in the planning phase of the mission, which is what happens before you even load the level. So you suddenly get more options for like the concealed items that you start the level with, and for like the concealed weapon that you can have, and you get more choices for where to start and what disguise to start in and all of these things. So by the time you hit mastery level 20 on a level, you have access to every starting point, every like drop location for extra gear, and tons of extra gear that you didn't even start the game with, which is really cool. Like, after I figured that out, I slowly found kind of the best place to start, which I thought on Paris, it was being the palace staff down in the kitchen, because it gives you so much access and so many options right away. Yeah,
they can go almost anywhere. That sometimes, you know, they're going to get turned away, but I like being the palace staff probably more than I like being the armed guards.
Yeah, it's more interesting in some ways. And you can, like, you know, if you're one of the staff, you can mess with people's food, which helps a lot. Like, there are different types of poisons you can drop in, so you could just go to poison an NPC and try to kill them. But a lot of the times it's more fun to, like, try to isolate someone and, like, get them. You can basically give them a poison that just makes them want to go puke or whatever, so they, like, run to the bathroom, and you can mess with them that way and break their loops in interesting ways like that. In a way, it's kind of funny that this game is about killing people, because I don't think about it that way in my mind in the least, right? I'm talking about, like, poisoning people and, like, killing people and taking out targets. I don't think about this game in terms of killing. I think about it in terms of systems that I'm manipulating.
And this could be, like, one thing that, I don't even know how to say this exactly. I would like this game a little bit better if it weren't so hyper realistic in terms of graphics. That if this game were cartoony, then I would honestly probably have a better time with it, because that is the only like real detriment to it in my mind, is that it is about like very much killing. That even though it doesn't feel like you're stabbing someone in the neck so much as, you know, going through the motions, when you think about it like that, it's like, oh yeah, that's like gory and awful. I really am throwing a body in a dumpster. And whereas if it were more of a stylized game, I might, you know, I would honestly probably, you know, enjoy it a little bit better.
I might actually,
I like that kind of thing though.
Too. Like, I almost wish that and I don't even know how you would reskin this game, but if the same systems were applied to a game that didn't have like blatant violence, like if you could find a way to make these systems into a game that I could play in front of my kids, I would be so happy with that, because I can't right now. Like, I haven't played this game in front of my kids at all, and I would not.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the kind of thing, because that tends to be the kind of game that I like to play. I'm not a Call of Duty guy. Like I've talked about on other shows, I don't tend to like the graphics on the PS4 that much, because they just don't do anything for me. They all start to look the same. And this does have the graphic style of looking the same as those to me. But it's super fun manipulating it. Like, it's really fun to play it and do it. I just, you know, I wish it looked like the Wind Waker.
That's fair. Like, I don't mind the way it looks at all. But again, if it could be created in a way that wasn't violent, so I could play it in front of my kids and they would have no idea, and it was just an interesting systems game, I would be fine with that too. I did want to ask you, though, about Paris. Like, did you like the setting? Because it's the first real taste of the world outside of those tutorials.
Yes, I like it much better than the tutorials, because they really are small and cramped. And then you see it as you go in. It's like, okay, I'm in a mansion, I'm in a palace, this is it. Then you walk a little bit further. It's like, oh, okay. Then you go a little further, and it's like, oh, wow, there's this area. And then there's this area. It's like, oh, there's a river. And then you keep going. It's like, oh, all of this. And there's so many options to have that I really, really enjoyed that. I saw exactly what you meant when you said it was a fully realized world in itself, that they really did make it feel like there are different segments to this where individuals would be, just like it would be if you have ever worked in an event live. There are going to be, you know, worked any kind of event where there is a backstage and a tech crew and a light crew and a sound crew and everything, where everybody's just kind of doing their own thing, and then there are the performers and all of that. It felt like that to me.
Yeah, it's super sweet. And Paris and the second level, Sapienza, those are my two favorite still. And granted, I haven't dug into all of the later ones, but I've played pretty extensively for 4 of them, and Paris might still be my favorite one out of the 4 that I've really dug into. I love this level, which is why I didn't even hesitate to buy it for you, because I was like, This is such a good representation of the game, even if it's only whatever they consider to be chapter 1 or episode 1 or whatever. So, okay, I did want to ask you before we move on, which one is your favorite opportunity? Because I'm assuming you've done a ton of them, if not all of them.
I've actually only done one of them.
Okay, well, tell us about the one you did.
Okay, I did the first one that comes up, Helmut Kruger. That's the only one I've actually finished. I've started some of the other ones and then just end up doing my own thing instead of finishing them. No, actually, looking at the list that we've got here, I did the fireworks one as well. But I did it offline, so it didn't count. And which we need to talk about as well. But I did the Helmut Kruger one, where there is a famous male model who you just happen to bear a striking resemblance to. And you can dress up like him, and it gets you through various parts of the level as him, basically. And this one is very easy to mess up. That I messed it up the first couple of times just thinking I could do it differently than you actually had to. And when I figured it out, it made the level so much easier that I had been bumbling through it like it was a Benny Hill episode. And all of a sudden I get Kruger's outfit and I'm like, oh, this is super easy. I'm just going to walk up here and I'm going to put some poison in this. And it was just over like that. And I enjoyed that, but I don't think I enjoyed it as much as actually muddling through it myself. Is it felt almost like I was playing it on rails because it was put out in front of me that you do all of this. You do all of this and you take these steps and suddenly you have your target in a kill box. And it felt like it took away some of that kind of sandboxy figure this out kind of gameplay that it has.
And that's why I still think, like I talked about earlier, that's a good place to start, because it gives you a very obvious, like, hand-holdy, step-by-step, here's how you make it through the level. And once you do a bunch of these opportunities, you go back and you look at your challenges list, and suddenly there are a ton where you go, oh, I know how to do that, or I know how to get close to doing that, and I'm not sure how to do the last little part. So then it becomes executing things that you already know from the opportunities up to a point, and then you have to kind of freestyle it to figure out the rest, and that gets really fun.
And I was really glad that I'd planned out the mission when I did the 15 Seconds of Fame one where you turn into the model. Well, you disguise yourself as the model, where I'd started with a poison injector, and I just had a lot of fun with that. I enjoyed that way more. I think my favorite ways to kill so far have been, I know this sounds really morbid to say, my favorite ways to kill so far have either been the syringe that you can start the level with or picking up a kitchen knife. The kitchen knife is my favorite weapon in this level so far.
I think my favorite weapon in the game, because again, it sounds so morbid, but we're saying it so happily because we're talking about the systems and we're not actually talking about the kills. It's weird. But my favorite things to play around with in this game are the poisons, which sounds so bad, but it's like the poisons have interesting effects, and you can poison food and you can poison drinks, and you can get poison syringes to just inject it if you can sneak up behind someone. And there's those two different kinds. There's like a lethal poison, and then there's the poison that makes people sick and they have to run to the bathroom. And there's a third kind that you probably haven't unlocked yet that makes people like drowsy or knocks them out.
No, I haven't.
Yeah. So the various poisons are just super fun to play around with, which again sounds really morbid.
Also, one thing that I learned that I don't like is ever using a hammer. I don't think I will ever pick up and use a hammer because hammers are way louder than you think. I'm never going to murder somebody with a hammer.
There is one challenge in the tutorials where you have to play the entire level and the only thing you can equip is a hammer, and it's really fun.
Oh man, that sounds terrible for how bad I am at it. That's going to be so hard for me.
I think it was the very last one that I got on the tutorials. It was the one that took me the longest to figure out how to do it effectively, but it was cool.
Oh.
Like, I had such a sense of accomplishment when I did it.
Yeah, I bet you did. I have a question.
Yes.
Okay. Actually, it's not necessarily a question. It's a "Am I doing this wrong?" kind of question.
Okay.
There's a shed that I know outside, beside where you get where Helmut Kruger is doing his photo
exactly
shoot
what
when
you're
you get
talking
it.
about.
Okay. What am I talking about? I'm curious.
The shed. Like, I know where.
Oh, okay. I thought you knew where my question was
No,
going already.
I have a mental map of this entire level. So yes, I know exactly where you're talking about.
Okay, so that little gardening shed there, one of the windows is open.
Yes.
You cannot pull somebody from behind into that and kill them, can you?
I don't
because
think
there's
so.
somebody standing outside the window. I'm standing directly behind them where I should just be able to reach out, grab them, and pull them in through the window and, knock them out, take their outfit and go on. And I can't. And I keep thinking that I'm going to do something wrong because it seems so basic that you would be able to do this in a game this complex, but I can't. And I just wonder, can you do that or am I just completely screwing it up?
No,
am I completely messing it up?
No, I think you're right. Usually it's because the window is on the same level that you are on, because if you're like hanging down below a ledge, you can pull someone over. And
okay.
There are other ways to like attack someone on the other side of a window and then jump through really quick and like move their body or whatever. But no, you're not missing anything.
Okay.
There
because
aren't
I didn't
a whole
want to
lot of circumstances in the game where you have a window that's on the same, like the ground is the same level on both sides of it. So the one you're talking about is one of the few, which is why it's probably just not an interaction that's in the game. It does look like it's overlooked, but again, they're few and far between.
And that's something that I didn't think about, throwing a screwdriver at their neck or anything like that to try to grab them really quickly. because I probably could have done that because
See, your
I
hammer.
spent all
You should
of
have
my
used
time.
the hammer. Hammer is a silent knockout. It doesn't leave any blood. They would have fallen down. You could have jumped through and gotten them.
It's only silent if there's no one with a white dot over their head because they come and kill you if they hear it.
Well,
because it goes clonk.
Yeah,
Right there.
some of the close combat has sounds that travel a little bit of distance, but I don't know, man. Cool. So before we wrap up, I did want to talk about the other opportunities that were my favorite. You said you did the fireworks one, right?
I did the fireworks
Okay,
one.
I
That
want
one
to
was
talk about
actually
that in a
really
second
cool.
because I think that's my favorite one. But my second favorite one is it's called a rare scoop, and it's the one with the video blogger. Did you do any part of that?
No, I haven't done any part of it, but I'm pretty sure I know how. I haven't even started it yet. I haven't even gotten the opportunity open yet. Like, I haven't figured out exactly how to do it, or I haven't paid attention to it when it came up.
Okay.
And I want to do this one because of what I think it does.
Yeah. So the video blogger one, a rare scoop, is you go and you overhear a blogger talking on her cell phone, and she's saying, like, she forgot her lens or her lens is broken and she needs a replacement. Can you send someone with one? So if you go out to the side, it's one of the like restricted areas off to the side, but there's a parked like news camera crew, and they have a van, and you can go take the lens out of the van, like an extra lens that they have.
Yeah.
And if you go deliver that to the blogger, then she will fix her camera and then take that camera out to go interview Victor in front of the fountain out front. So that's a way to get him out front, and you get kill opportunities there. But the fun part about this one is that when you like give her or before you give her the lens to kind of set her on her path, you can go to her camera and put a remote explosive inside of it.
That's what I thought, because I found the camera later and I was
Yeah.
like, I want to make everybody blow up.
Yeah, it's super cool. So you can wait until she's interviewing him and she has like the camera right next to him out by the fountain, and then you can trigger the remote explosion and no one will ever know it's you. It's so good.
Yeah, that one was fun. The way I got him today was a really, really stupid way that I got him. Is I started it with a pistol, just the silence pistol. And I waited until he got outside. When he goes out through the bar, he talks to the people at the bar for a minute. He stands in the middle of the party, and then he paces outside onto the really crowded patio.
Yeah.
And I took myself in whatever disguise I was in. I can't even remember. And there's a giant horse statue out in the courtyard.
Yeah.
And I ducked down behind it and sniped him from behind the horse statue with the silenced pistol right in the head. And then I dropped the gun and walked away.
Nice.
And I was like, that shouldn't have worked. That was real dumb. And but I escaped through maybe the kitchens at that point was the easier way for me to get out. I don't remember. But it was like, I needed a sniper rifle, and I did it with a silenced pistol.
One of the cool things about that patio that he walks out onto is, and I don't know if you got far enough to figure this out, but if you take a wrench and you walk up to one of those lampposts, and you have to make sure that you're in the right disguise so that nobody will question what you're doing, like maintenance,
Right.
basically, you can like loosen the gas on one of those gas lamps so that it starts leaking. And then if you shoot the lamp when he's near it, it'll make a giant explosion and it'll look like an accident.
That's what it does. Okay, I saw where I needed the wrench when I was doing all of this, and didn't have one on me to mess with it.
Yeah, there's tons of systems that took me a long time to figure out. Like the fact that if you have a screwdriver, you can mess with any like power strip on the ground. And then if you combine a power strip with a hose and make a water puddle on like a faulty wiring power strip, you can electrocute people, stuff like that.
Oh, I had no idea about that at all.
Yeah, there's tons and tons of little systems like that if you just explore, you will figure them out eventually. So I want to talk about my favorite opportunity, and then we'll move on to some weekly geekery and stuff. But you did the fireworks, right?
I did. I don't think I killed them the same way that maybe I was supposed to, like being able to drop something on their heads from above with it, but it got everybody out of the way, and that was how I did it the first time, was using the fireworks to get them separated and killed them then.
Okay, so the fireworks, you trigger the fireworks, and basically the guy freaks out because they're not supposed to go off till nighttime. So he runs out onto like a patio area and he gets all pissed that they're going off. And then the lady goes out and watches them because she thinks it's funny that he's mad about it. essentially that's what happens. And you just have to go and sneak into the crew area and find where they're holding like the fireworks detonator.
Yep.
My favorite thing to do after you trigger the fireworks, she's standing on that balcony and he's standing down below. If you wait for a minute, she'll walk over and look down at him. You can push her off the balcony onto him and kill them both at the same time.
I did not do that.
I think it's my favorite kill on this level.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay, so that's Hitman. Thank you for indulging me. I've been playing it for like a month, so I had to talk about it, and I'm so glad that you played too, Beej.
Yeah, it is. It's a very good game that if it hadn't been for you telling me about it and having found out about it on the end of year list, I would have completely walked away from it. Like I never would have even looked at it again because I didn't like the very first Hitman game. And so I'm like this old crotchety man. I was like, oh, in the 70s, that restaurant wasn't very good, so I'm not going there now. I was that way. It was like the first Hitman game wasn't very fun, so I'm not playing any of them ever again.
Yeah, and I was guilty of something along the same way, too. I listen to a lot of gaming podcasts, and I read a lot of gaming news sites, and I saw it enough times that I said, okay, I should actually go give it a shot. And I'm so glad that I did.
Yeah, this one's really fun.
Cool. If you guys played it all, let us know. We should probably create a thread. We will create a thread in the subreddit. We'll gladly talk to you guys about it. Or hit me up on Twitter. It's always fun. Geeky Offer of the Week. We have Audible Trial, which is what we've been mostly doing lately because audiobooks are always fun. You can go to audibletrial.com/geek2geekcast and get a free book on us. You help support the podcast. We get you a free book. Everybody wins. Book recommendation of this week, just because I know BJ is still reading it, Paper and Fire. It's really, really good. It's the Great Library series by Rachel Kane. And I don't want to get too much into Paper and Fire itself because it's kind of spoilery for the first book. But if you haven't read it yet, you can also read Ink and Bone, which is the first book in the series. It's so, so good. And we've talked about it a bunch, so we probably don't have to go into details on it. But yeah, Paper and Fire or Ink and Bone.
It.
Yes.
Last year, seriously, I read one book last year, and this is the only, and because of, my crazy brains, and I couldn't focus, this is the first time I've ever moved, in the last year and a half, moved from one book directly into another book, because it was so compelling that I had to. And so Rachel Kane's Great Library series is just fantastic.
Cool. And with that, time for our weekly geekery, where we share what we've been geeking out about this week. I actually have a lot more than you this week because you had a busy week, and I'm finally settling into my job where I'm having free time again, which is nice. But the one thing we both did, I think both of us got back to running this week, right?
Woo! Yeah, finally. How's it going for you? How's the weather?
It was good. It's really good here. We might get snow later this week, but as of recording, it was like 60 today, and it's been 50 or 60 for the last few days, which is crazy in February in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So as long as it lasts, I'm getting out a lot. So I went for a couple long walks just to kind of like get my legs ready for the year, because I've been on a stationary bike most of the winter. It's not the same thing as walking and running. And then I went for one run, and I tried to go kind of my standard minimum distance, which is about 3 miles. And I made it. It was a lot more walking than running. It was the old run, walk interval stuff. But I made it. I mean, I went really far. Not really far. It was really far for my first run back for the year. And
yeah, absolutely.
I loved getting out. I'm so excited that running season is here again.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I've finally gotten back to be able to go outside running, and I've been able to do like 1.3 solid miles now. And I'm doing it slow for me, but it's, I'm finally able to get back there. I have the energy and the mindset to do it. I'm finally eating well. We made some cauliflower-based jambalaya this week. Oh, instead of rice, it has riced cauliflower. Dude, it is so good. And like, you would hate it. I understand that. But your wife, make her make this stuff for herself. Like, it is so good. And like, being able to run and go back to the gym, and I started doing the Strong Lifts 5x5 program again, and it is so fun. Like, I'm so sore right now because I hadn't done any kind of weight training in so long or running, and I basically rode a bike and did like 25 barbell squats like in one day, and it was dumb. So I'm going back tomorrow instead of today. But just being able to move around has been a respite from the amount of work that I've had to do. I'm so excited just to be able to move around and run again. Like I knew I recognized as a runner and I labeled myself that way, but the first time I was able to get back out and just start running, like I had this big dumb cartoon grin just looking at it, I was like, can you, like a dog really, it's like, can you guys see me? Can you see how I'm running? Look at me, I'm running, you guys. And I was like like really, that's how I felt, like a dog with its head out the window. Like I'm so excited to be able to run again.
It's so good. And hopefully, I mean, chances are your season is here to stay. I'm hoping that my season will hold out. But I mean, we get snow a lot in March in Minnesota.
A lot of times we actually get snow in March here in Alabama. Like I know generally during my spring break over the last, like, I guess I was there for 8 years, it's always been cold during the first week of March when we would have spring break, and it snowed a couple of times. So I'm hoping that it stays a little warmer, because I mean today it got like 80 here, but I'm hoping it stays in that 50 to 60 range for long enough to truly enjoy it.
Cool. Well, we'll keep talking about running as we get back into it for the season. Woo! It's always good to kind of check in and be accountable, even if it's to an entire audience of podcast listeners.
And I want to say thank you to all of you guys out there on Twitter. Like, I don't know if you've listened to my podcast, the Health Hacks podcast, or not, but those of you, y'all are keeping me accountable on running. Since I made a comment on Dumbbells and Dragons that day, you guys are like, you're running, BJ? You're running? Did you go to the gym today? It's like, thank you, guys. So keep it coming.
Yes, excellent. Okay, so for me, outside of running, I'm still playing Fire Emblem Heroes, and I'm up to Lunatic difficulty, which means that I am playing less and less every day because the stamina cost keeps going up, which I talked about last week. It's more of the same. I don't have a whole lot to say about it, except that every battle I fight now takes more and more stamina, so it's just like, I can only get in like 3, maybe 4 battles before I'm like, okay, well, now I have to wait for it to recharge for hours. That energy mechanic is so dumb. But I love the core of that game. Like, I wish I could just play it whenever I had free time, but
I know.
Yeah.
And I love the core of the game, but I've kind of not bounced off of it, but I'm not playing it as consistently as I was for the first week or so, because it's so much of the same that there's not a lot of variation. Though I did like summon my first 5-star hero, and I was super excited about that.
Nice, well done.
I think it was Hawkeye.
But I was also playing a game called Hidden Folks this week.
Never heard of that one.
I heard about it from a bunch of people, and it was on the App Store for like $4 or something. So whatever. If I see enough people talking about a mobile game and it's less than $5, I will pick it up without knowing anything about it. That's just one of those things that I do because I find mobile gaming so interesting. And it's one I've ended up playing with my daughter mostly. So I'm not even playing it on my own. I usually wait until she asks, and then we play it together. It's kind of like an interactive modern version of Where's Waldo, but all black and white. That doesn't quite do it justice because you're not just looking for one thing that's the same from level to level. You are looking for a variety of things, and they kind of like give you clues, and they give you a little image underneath about all these different things that you can find in the level. And then in the level, you can zoom around and tap on different things. And yeah, there's just like everything that you tap on will have some kind of interaction with the level. Like it's completely interactable, and some of the people on it are moving around, and like little figures are moving around and doing things. So it's kind of like if Where's Waldo was interactive and brought to life and in black and white and more interesting than Where's Waldo ever was before.
Yeah, and I don't think I would personally like that, but if I had somebody to play with, like my nephew or you know, your daughter, that would be super fun. Like that's the kind of thing that I do really enjoy doing. He got me to play Marvel Tsum Tsum with him, and that was fun.
And then I went to a Game of Thrones live concert experience thing last night, which I didn't even tell you about, did I?
No, you didn't tell me about it. I woke up, saw this on Twitter that you were like being like a 19-year-old staying up past like 9 o'clock at night. And I know you stay up late at night. I'm the one who goes to bed at 9. And it's just like, I didn't know this was a thing. Tell me about this. Because I went to a Star Wars in concert, and it was awesome.
You do go to bed early. I go to bed at 11:30 usually. That's usually when I'm falling asleep, and that's only because I have to wake up at like 5:45. I mean, before when I was freelancing, I would go to bed at like 1 a.m. That was about right. But I would wake up at
I literally
8.
Can't remember the last time I stayed up till 11.
That's crazy. If I go to sleep, like I might go to bed and like, read for a while and do other stuff in bed and hang out, but like I don't fall asleep before 11 or 11:30 most nights. That's way too early. I'm such a night owl compared to you.
Oh yeah, and I'm a morning person. Like, hey, I woke up this morning at 5:00, got up at 5:30. I was like, hey guys, let's do something. Let's play Overwatch.
And I can drag myself awake because I have been doing that for my new job, but I am not like fully functional and ready to go when I wake up at that time of day.
Let's podcast at 5 a.m. sometime and see what happens.
Let's not. Okay, so the Game of Thrones live concert experience, it was a live performance of Game of Thrones music, which is exactly what it sounds like. And the live music was just amazing, right? The performance part of it was amazing. But the whole thing was supposed to be like an experience with like visuals, and they had like tons of these giant interactive, well, not interactive, but tons of giant screens where they had like projected videos and lots of like props that would come down from the sky and like do different things for different songs. The first half of the concert, it like the music was fantastic, but all of the interactive experience stuff and the screens, and it didn't feel cohesive. And a lot of the times it felt like those bad fan-made videos that you see online where they just cut a bunch of clips together and there's no sequence to it, there's no progression, there's no impact at all. It's just like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of clips I know from Game of Thrones. So we really liked listening to the music in that first half, but my wife and I, because we didn't know what to expect, and we do this a lot, if we don't know what we're in for, we will go sit in the back and make fun of it together the entire time. Because that's what my wife and I do. And we go back so we're not bugging other people because we know that we'll do that. So the concert wasn't sold out at all because they had like changed the day or something. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It wasn't like packed. So we just went way back to the back row and we sat there the whole first half and we were listening, but we were making fun of things too. And I had a great time doing that with my wife because we just love to do that kind of thing together. But then after intermission, it was amazing. The second half of that concert, instead of doing like the first half, they might be like a theme, and then it was like a bunch of, a character's theme, and then it was just random cuts of the person out of order from all the seasons, and it was like, okay, whatever. The second half, they did like entire scenes, and they would play the music for like a whole sequence that had a huge impact on the show. So, for example, there was like the core of the music from the Battle of the Bastards, and they showed every key point in the Battle of the Bastards in order. It wasn't the whole episode. It was condensed down to like, I don't know, 10 minutes, maybe 15.
Okay.
But it was so good. And then they did the same thing for the end of season 6 and all the stuff that happens at the Great Sept of Baelor, which if you haven't seen it yet, I'm not going to ruin it for you, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
I know what you're talking about finally.
Yeah, they did that whole sequence, and it was like special effects and like pyrotechnics and stuff with it too. It was so cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah, so the second half made the first half worth sitting through. So if you do go to see it, don't leave at intermission, even though the first half was just okay, because the second half is really, really good.
That actually really stinks because like so many people do leave at intermission. Like I hate that for the production being so good in the second half because I leave at intermission quite a bit if something is just super stinky.
Yeah, we do sometimes too, but again, we liked the music enough that we were like, at the very least, we're hearing a bunch of really cool live music. So it was fine. But yeah, like I said, the second half was really good. And then beyond that, and Hitman, I'm just kind of waiting for the Nintendo Switch. I've looked at a bunch of other games that have coming out or have come out. I was looking at Neo and For Honor and Resident Evil 7 and Conan Exiles, and I'm contemplating Final Fantasy 14 again because the new expansion is coming up. And I'm just kind of not pulling the trigger on anything because I want to play the Nintendo Switch, and it's so close now. So I'm biding my time, and I'm playing Hitman, and I'm playing Fire Emblem Heroes. And the other thing was, so I started writing that list for the episode, and then I was talking to people online, and like the games that I actually do care about, it is crazy. Between the end of February and the first week of April, we are getting Horizon Zero Dawn, which is a game that I don't know if I'm going to pick up now because everything's so busy, but it looks really cool. We're getting, so Horizon Zero Dawn, we're getting the new Zelda with the launch of the Switch and all the other Switch launch titles. And we're getting Mass Effect Andromeda and Persona 5 in the space of like 5 weeks. It's crazy.
Wow. Also, I would like to point out that there's a term for the end of February to the 1st of April. It's called March.
Well, it's not just March, though.
I'm sorry, just the way that you said that. I was like, it's March, bro.
No, I wanted to put March, but it's the last week of February, and it includes the first week of April. Otherwise,
it does. It was just so funny.
But okay, but along those lines, there was new Zelda info that came out that you and I talked a little bit about.
I have a question, actually.
Yeah.
Before you go to the Zelda, Persona 5, is it going to be a Vita game like Persona 4 Golden, or is it going to be a major like home console game?
No, it's home console. I think it's PS3 and PS4, and then maybe Xbox One. Maybe.
Cool.
Yeah. But honestly, the core 3 there, Zelda, Mass Effect, and Persona 5, that like I've been psyched for all of those for as long as I've known about them. I will gladly do Persona 5 over the other 2. There's like no question in my mind.
Even Zelda?
Oh yeah, no question. No question that Persona 5 takes precedence over Zelda for me.
Holy mother of pearl.
After how much I love Persona 4, like, why would I mean, like, I love the Zelda series, but not as much as I love Persona 4 Golden. So, yes, Persona 5 takes precedence. So I'm really, really hoping that I can beat Breath of the Wild before Persona 5 comes out.
Or else you're going to lose your mind.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'll keep you informed. But yeah, the Zelda news
I'm
was...
excited.
Some of the Zelda news was cool just because... They're saying that they're taking out a lot of the things that were like traditional for the series, and I kind of agreed with everything that I read. Like, we talked about this. Here, I'll run down the list quick. We don't have to like linger on everything, but there's no more compass. The map will autofill when you're exploring.
Great.
There's no musical chests, so that typical Zelda music. We probably won't get green clothes until late in the game. There's more money hidden in all the grass. You can't just cut grass to get rupees. We get a jump button, finally.
Oh my goodness.
I know. There's no more Epona, but we do have random tameable horses, and if you want to name one Epona, you can, which is fine, I suppose. There's no one new item for each new dungeon. That doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
it's just
that is great.
Yeah, they said you would like walk into a dungeon and you would be able to usually see the target or like the end of it from where you start. It's just about figuring out how to get there. It's not about acquiring a new item and then a new compass and then the map and then working through it, you know? So,
and I think that's really awesome because that's fun. And one of the big things that I've always hated about Zelda is going into a dungeon and despising the mechanic of the item. And so that dungeon just becomes a trudge that is just like, well, I hate this. I'm going to hate the next couple hours of my life.
Yeah. Zelda dungeons are usually where people fall out of games because they kind of linger on too long. So hopefully they fix that. Yeah, we'll see. So the other 2 things that they announced, enemies won't wait around to attack. So, you know, when you have like 5 or 6 enemies in kind of a giant semicircle around you and you attack them one at a time and the others just wait, that doesn't exist anymore, which is good because it always felt dumb. And then they said that all of the bombs in the game are remote bombs. There are no more timed fuses to fight with, which I think is huge because how many times do you throw a bomb and you know what you're supposed to do and you just can't do it because you don't know how much time is on the fuse?
I mess that up pretty often, but I'm also generally terrible at fuses. Like, I've been playing Junkrat on Overwatch a lot lately, and the issue that I have with detonators is placing them in the wrong place where the detonation doesn't go as far as I thought. I'm sure I'm going to run into that same issue with bombs in Zelda now.
Yeah, we'll see. I still think it'll be better than fuses, though. But yeah, lots of Zelda news. And then all of those other games are coming out in March-ish. Can we call it March-ish?
March-ish.
Okay, so everything else is coming out March-ish because they delayed all of the games I was excited for last fall into March-ish.
That's true.
Yeah, so very, very soon, all those games are going to start coming out, and I will be talking about them all because They're honestly, Zelda, Mass Effect, and Persona 5 are all pre-ordered. I will have them on the day they come out.
And I have a question about Zelda that I've been meaning to ask you. That I know it's coming out for the Switch, and I know you're going to be getting the Switch, but I've also read that the Zelda for the Switch is going to be less impressive than the one on the Wii U. Are you going to get it and play it on Wii U instead?
No, I haven't heard that at all. I've heard it's the other way around.
Oh, is it? Okay, see, I'd heard that it was one way. I may be wrong. You read way more about that than I do. So, yeah, the one I'd heard was that the Switch wasn't as powerful and it was not as graphically impressive.
No, probably what you read, and you might have conflated a couple things in your mind, which makes sense because of all the info that keeps coming out about Zelda. The Switch docked experience versus the Switch out of the docked experience, the frame rate and the, screen crispness takes a hit when you take it out of the dock.
Oh,
so
okay.
I think they were saying that the Switch out of the dock might be slightly worse experience than the Wii U on the TV. But overall, the Switch will give you the better experience.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, with that, you can write to us with comments, suggestions, or feedback. Our email address is geek2geekcast@gmail.com, or reach us on Twitter @geek2geekcast. We also have longer discussion threads on the subreddit at reddit.com/r/geek2geekcast.
If you want to get email updates about any of our network's podcasts, you can sign up at geek2geekcast.net and tell us which shows you want updates about.
I blog at agreenmushroom.com, and you can find me at grnmushroom. That's green mushroom without the E's on Twitter.
I'm on Twitter as @Professor Beej. That's Beej with 2 E's. And I blog and podcast at geekfitness.net.
We've been Void and Beej with your Geek to Geek podcast. That'll do it for this week. See you next week, geeks.
Sneaky, sneaky.